Loren, welcome to the Key Consultant interview from the team at 10X.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Loren, tell us, we know your first name, but why don't you just rehash it? Tell us your first name, last name, and give us a little bit of background on your education and some of the skill sets in your professional background.
Sure. Happy to do that. So my name is Loren Griffith, and I have spent my career doing a variety of growth strategy and market assessment work. Out of graduate school, which was at Princeton and at Stanford, I joined McKinsey, the global consultancy, and spent about 6 years doing, serving clients in a wide variety of sectors: healthcare, industrial, financial services, high tech, you name it, and mostly on helping them develop new growth strategies. And then I moved into in-house, so to speak, at Oxford University, where I spent 7 years as the head of international strategy before I became an independent consultant in 2017.
That's awesome. That sounds like quite a storied background, which is great. So Loren, maybe summarize some of the background that you have in market assessment and growth strategy in terms of the value that you bring to a potential client, or what they could expect from working with you in some of your background in your market assessment and growth strategy background.
Sure. Well, I think a market assessment or growth strategy project has a few main components. One of them is conceptual rigor. And so it's important to simply be able to put together a clear framework, often as simple as assessing the market attractiveness of an opportunity and the fit with a client's organization, and then to be able to go through a structured process of assessing each opportunity against that conceptual framework. A second skill set is the data analytics. We live in a world increasingly of big data, and the ability to make sense of that data in a way that factors into business decisions is critical. And the third is that the human element remains as important as ever. And so this is where 10X comes in. It's kind of an unparalleled platform for aggregating expert views that really help a client to understand market dynamics, to understand key success factors, and so forth. And so those three things combined are all critical parts of a growth strategy piece of work.
I love it. So it's three pieces. What I hear you saying is we've got framework, we've got big data or data, and then we've got the human element, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I love the breakdown of it. So it sounds so simple. I know it's a lot harder than it really is, but it sounds simple. So talk to me about some of the projects that you've worked on with 10X and for which clients, if you could.
Sure. So, gosh, I've spent about 2 years doing work with 10X, and I've served about 15 clients across a bunch of industries. But the unifying element has been client desire to achieve a kind of step change in their growth trajectory. Sometimes that's about finding new geographies. Sometimes that's about finding new customers, about developing new products, building a new organization to deliver on the growth strategy. So it's been a good ride, and I've really enjoyed each and every one of them.
Well, that's awesome. So can you talk a little bit about the pain points that these clients struggled with? You mentioned growth trajectory a minute ago, which I think is pretty spot on in terms of what they're looking to do. So what pain point are they struggling with that is trying to drive that, that change in their revenue trajectory or growth trajectory?
Yeah, well, it varies by client, of course. So one that pops to mind is a large education organization that had stagnated in one of its key geographies, and so it was looking for new ideas. So they asked us to come in and initially help them to brainstorm what the solution set might look like, the range of possibilities. And so we found about 12 plausible ideas, and then assessed those in some depth for how attractive the market was and how well it fit with their capabilities, and conducted a series of client workshops that got us ultimately to prioritize 2 opportunities for them that were the most attractive. And so in that case, the pain point was a kind of frustration around the growth targets that they had missed in recent years. And the outcome, at least initially, was a sense of optimism and excitement about possibilities rather than missed opportunities.
Oh, I love it. That's such a good example. So as we talk about the benefits to that specific client, or even some of the other 14 or 15 projects that you've been a part of, what value did we bring and did you bring as a team to the client as we've worked through the benefits and impacts to our clients as part of these market assessment or growth strategy projects?
Yeah, I think in many cases, it's a degree of rigor in helping the client to work through and assess ideas, many of which are already alive in the organization at some level, but which they haven't really been able to rigorously analyze. And so they're not quite sure which of them they ought to really pursue. So if I think of another client example, and it was actually in the waste management space. So working with a company in a sector that you might think was kind of old-fashioned and sleepy, but actually is changing very rapidly through technology and evolution of the market players. And our client had, in this case, grown rapidly. So growth was not the issue, but focus was the issue for them. They were a little bit all over the place. And so in that case, what we helped them to do was to pare down a varied set of opportunities to the ones that fit best with their value proposition and their capabilities. And so I think in that case, what they ended up with was a board-ready presentation in which they were able to say, look, we've thought through 7 different customer segments and done 25 interviews and built this super detailed financial model. And where that's gotten us to in the end is a clear idea that we're going to focus on these 3 or 4 areas. And we're no longer going to be chasing after an opportunity over here and then another one over there, but rather we're going to have a strategy that will give us a sense of direction for the coming years.
I love it. So what I hear you saying is really those 2 specific projects, especially with the waste management company, was efficiency, focus, and clarity, because it sounds like you said a minute ago, they were all over the place in terms of a lot of the vision or direction inside their company. So those are pretty big values and impacts. I love it. Loren, this has been a super great spend of my time this afternoon. Thanks for joining us on another Consultants Corner here at 10X.
Yeah, thanks for having me.